You've been here how many days already?
We've been here about 6 days already.
All right, so tell us what you've observed so far.
Well, we've been doing a little fishing up the river with a couple of local guys, and they tell me this is my 5th year here, and every year it seems to be a little bit less fish. And some of the guys around the area, once in a while, will throw a net in the river, a gill net, and you don't catch any fish for 3 or 4 days at least when that happens, because they just take everything. They shut the river right off.
In your observation and discussion with them, would you say that they've come to an understanding that it's as a result of gillnet use, or what's causing it, the depletion?
Well, I think they definitely blame the gillnet. I mean, we had a gillnet fisheries in Maine when I was like 15. We had 25, 30 boats in town that would do day trips every day, and they fished it out completely, enough so that you couldn't even use a gillnet anymore at all. Now we have to use a long line that sinks to the bottom with an anchor on each end with a bunch of hooks on it, and the hooks have to be a certain size, the fish have to be a certain size, and they can only fish in certain areas. And they've even been doing that for like 20 years, and it still isn't really come back. So I think what's trying to happen right now is we're trying to get a jump on it before it happens to you folks down here. You know, that's pretty much what the BFF is trying to do. And a lot of the local fishermen that I speak to feel the same way. You know, they want to be able to have their kids and their grandkids fish. It's not going to happen if they keep using these nets.
What's your observation of how the process is moving along in terms of the involvement of the authorities to push it along?
Yeah, I think this is going to help. You know, I think there's been some resistance, but I think overall the word is getting around, and people are starting to see a difference. Especially the older fishermen are, you know, speaking about their knowledge and their past and what it used to be like and what it is now. And a lot of the younger guys are really listening to that and paying attention to that.
You want to ask something, Marisol?
No, I guess just mostly about your experience out there. Do you think adhering to size limits when it comes to the gill nets or the mesh size as well would have made a difference?
Well, no, because whatever gets in the net dies. You know, and you can't regulate. Once a fish gets in that net, he's going to die. You know, so we tried a different mesh size, and it just didn't work. So it was too late for us, really. And so we just went with the hooks, and we had to be. They're really strict now. I mean, sometimes we get codfish in our trap, lobster fishing, and we can't even keep them if they're in the trap. We have to throw them back. So it's really strict. We got a lot of good enforcement. The enforcement is crucial. If you have a law and you don't enforce it, it's just like having no laws. So there's going to be a big benefit to the country of Belize if they stop using gill nets. They're going to see the fisheries come back. It's going to slow down the catch a little bit, but you're going to see more and more fish start to come back.
No, I think one of the concerns of the fishermen is because that's their livelihood. They live in these far out communities. What do they do if they're not fishing, and if the alternative gear is not bringing in as much fish? What would you say to those people who have those concerns?
Well, I mean, I don't see them banning gill nets tomorrow or next week or next month, but I think over time it's going to happen. So you have to kind of try to prepare for that any way you can. I mean, it's simple as if they keep using gill nets, they're not going to be able to catch any fish anyway. So what are they going to do then? So you either stop doing it now or you fish it out and have no fish to catch. And I know that anybody that has any time fishing with a gill net can't sit back and say that they're catching the same amount of fish that they caught 10 years ago today. I don't believe it. I don't believe they can say that, honestly.
Do you think, for instance, here in the South, we're in a unique situation given the Guatemalan claim and the fishermen from Guatemala who oftentimes come into the Port Honduras Marine Reserve and fish in Belize's waters? So they're bringing illegal gear and we're telling our fishermen not to use it, but other people are being allowed to.
Well, that's where your enforcement comes in. You know, you have to have enforcement, and you may have to have some lines drawn out there. With we have zones in Maine, you know, lobster fishing zones. And maybe that's something that you guys need to do with your fishing zones. Maybe that borderline is somewhere out there by the reef, because you can't be trying to have a sustainable industry and have somebody else come and rob it every day. I mean, that's just not going to work. And the other thing I wanted to say was I think the BFF is really working on alternative programs for fishermen to be able to try to learn something new, some kind of new profession or job. And there's grant money for that too, and Nigel will talk more about that later. But
you've spoken, I think, only of Maine. What is the experience, or what's your knowledge of other fishing communities in the U.S. in terms of banning the gillnet?
I can't say for certain, but I don't believe gillnets are allowed in the U.S. at all anymore. I think it's just fish dragging, and you drag a net behind your boat, and they pull it on, and then they throw the fish over that they're not allowed to keep. And then they have like a bycatch limit on a certain species. They can keep a certain amount, but they have to throw the rest back.
And that's like self-policing though, in terms,
yes.
Or do they have people on the boat regulating?
No, when we come into the dock, we don't have people buying illegal fish, because we have people that go to those places and don't allow you to sell that fish. So it can be land and sea enforcement. You know, if somebody's I own a restaurant also, and if somebody comes in and my wife is running the restaurant and there's some kind of species, if we have halibut on the menu, I have to have a tag that shows when I caught that fish, which was in halibut season, and I just didn't go out and catch it today, because they take the fish and write me a big fine.
In terms of the awareness of the fishermen, I'm talking about where you come from, was it only a matter of enforcers or authorities doing the enforcement, or was it also a case where the fishermen also had to learn about the negative effects of the use of gillnets?
I think it goes back to that thing I said about a fisherman who's been using gillnets for 10 or 15 years. They know in their mind when these laws come up that their fisheries is declining. So you just have to improvise and do something different. It becomes a piece of you after a while, and you want your industry to sustain itself. You want to be able to do this for your life. You don't want to have to do something different. And the guys that have been gillnetting their whole life, I can sympathize with them. If somebody came up and said, hey, you got to do something different, that's tough. You know, no matter how old you are, you got to learn to do something different. It's scary, it's uncomfortable. But the thing with the gillnets is that it might not be tomorrow, it might not be 6 months, but it's gonna happen. You're gonna take all the fish eventually.